Yeah, let's see. I'm going live. I'm going live. Hey, gang. Good day, good day, good day, wherever you are. Here I am, your Sensei Al Bob, and I'm coming to you on our channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I'm your griot, your shamanic griot. And we are tonight. Again, remember this show is just for your entertainment's sake. And any of you folk who are snowflakes who are underage, you should get yourself out of the kitchen. I'm surrounded by art, and so lying, liars, America's value, hate and violence. What is it good for? Dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign. And pretty much, we have always been a transactional, um, you know, environment. All of the things that we talk about, democracy, the first, all of the amendments, of our Constitution that are supposed to guarantee our freedoms, basically says, like the First Amendment, number one, the Congress will not make any laws against religious or, free speech or, assembly. Well, Congress may not, but it totally leaves every state open to do whatever the heck it wants, and that's how they got everyone on board. Basically those 13 colonies wanted to be 13 separate little countries, and as the great father of the Iroquois Nation, when he addressed the Philadelphia Continental Congress, he came in with his total outfit, and he had his arrow quivers, and he took out 13 arrows. He took out one arrow, snapped it. Took out 13 arrows and tried to break it over his knee. Couldn't do it. And he said, that's what, hey, fish. And he said, that's what it's about, together, and I think it was Franklin said, we all either hang together or we're going to hang separately. So that's where we are today, is that the powers that shouldn't be are slicing everyone up, right? So we are not together. We are not, So what's it going to take? I mean, one of the great values of Donald Trump is that he has manifested right in front of us all that is, it's not like it hasn't been this way. It's always been this way. But it's like when Toto pulled the curtain away from, the guy behind the curtain. That's what Donald Trump is doing, pulling the curtain away, because anybody, you got to realize anybody who runs for office, it's anyone who makes it into office. A lot of people run for office with, their values of service is first and foremost. And Tansy Davert, I can't pronounce her name as I should because I don't have the teeth to make the right consonants, but she's from Hawaii, and she's military, she's still in the military. And instead of like being out there, she's like, she got the call. She put on her uniform. She went. Now there's a girl, there's a woman / American first, who's truly showing service, And so, whereas Donald Trump, he is totally transactional, and he can't help but lie every word out of his mouth. But pretty much every other politician is a lie, Mitch McConnell, any of the Republicans in the Senate or in the House, Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, you name it, they're just thinking about themselves. So, that's what I want to talk about. Is and I kind of reread or looked at or listened to um, The Wizard of Oz, one of the greatest books. One of the top 10 movies ever made. The Library of Congress says it's the most watched movie ever. And why is it? It's because the guy who wrote that book, Frank, whatever his name was an economist. And he couldn't really, spill the beans on what was going on. Otherwise, they'd off him, or at least he'd be out like me, out in the cold. But, John wrote me this big long thing, and I love John, and he's concerned, because you shouldn't do the videos you do. You should do them more about the stuff people want to hear, and then you'd make money, and then you could pay me rent, and it's like, no, I did Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, not because I wanted to be rich and famous, because I'm already living like a millionaire. I mean, look at this hat. If this isn't a millionaire's hat, I don't know what is. And, I'm having breakfast in an art gallery, only millionaires have this. So, and I was only, staying with John, not because I had to or didn't have any other place to be. No, it's because John needed me. I thought I could help John. I thought I could give John a pathway, to get a life that he could be happy. So, have you been watching John's channel? And that's why, and the other side of the coin was that John was the canary in the coal mine. I mean, he was just like Donald Trump. He was giving me data of what's going on in America more than I've ever seen. Anyway, so what do you think, Fish, of my first 7 minutes here of setting the show up? Because, The Wizard of Oz, written by Frank, whatever his name is, and there's a radio show. I have a really good radio station here in Tennessee out of ETSU, Eastern Tennessee University, State University, and it's WETSU. And they have a number of really good shows. They have, New Dimensions, which is a very, it's kind of a new age, but it's very topical. So they had this Joan Houston on, and she's written a number of books. And her most recent one, I think, has been about The Wizard of Oz, and about, she was a student of Joseph Campbell's. And so he, his most famous book is, The Myth of the Hero. And, that's The Wizard of Oz. It gives a great portrait, here. And who is the hero? Some guy? No, Dorothy. And Dorothy is like pressed into service because, she's just a little girl. Everyone knows she's cute, but ignores her completely. She's always asking Auntie Anne, can we? Oh, Dorothy, don't bother me. I'm counting the chickens, It goes to the helpers. Oh, I got a fence, never. So she is pressed into service. So she runs away with Toto because, she's scared that witch is going to, that the school teacher, whatever her name was, on the bicycle, will come and get her loved buddy, Toto. And Toto is just, he is the gestalt. He is the touchstone of truth, And so, he didn't bite, Miss Gulch. She's just a witch. And he was like saying, stay away, bitch, I got my girls covered here, So Dorothy's got to watch out for Toto. So she, takes off, puts Toto in a basket and takes off. And she runs into, the snake oil salesman, But he's wise enough to know what's going on. And he goes, honey, you've got to go back to your uncle and aunt in the farm and step up, and it's just like us all. We all have to step up. We are being forced. Donald Trump isn't Miss Gulch. Donald Trump is the tornado, Miss Gulch would be Mike Pence. You could see a real, you could see if Mike Pence was on a broomstick. That's kind of what he looked like, along with Mother. And so, so she goes back and she's looking for, Aunt Em and her uncle and the boys, and you can't find them. And she goes upstairs. She's running around. Well, the tornado's coming, and they're down in the basement, and so she, is looking for them upstairs, and all of a sudden, tornado picks up that house and swings it around. Woo, 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 woo. And this whole time, that first 15% of the movie, it is in monochromatic, black and white. It's not even black and white. It's gray. Everything is gray, Dust Bowl gray, and that's our life. That's what materialism puts us into. Is this Dust Bowl gray. And up until the time she came back looking for Auntie Em, she was in that position that we all are. Oh, I'd really like to, like I keep talking about. Come on, gang, let's, take the band on the road. Let's go to, and I have 2 universities within 30 miles of me, 35 miles of me, and I've been, talking this up. The alternative aesthetic, the Institute for Aesthetically Adept and Appropriate Technology. So, the giving the right now, Wall Street Journal, NBC did a poll of millennials, right? And the average number of people who went to church once a week, up until 2004, the last time they did this, was about 48%. Today, it's 29%, right? And that's everybody, not millennials, everybody. Millennials, it's like they don't, more millennials do a single shooter, multi-character online shooter. They do that like 5 times a night and never go to church. That's their church, shooting up the zombies, And again, this, a lot of people go, oh, those snowflakes, oh, those, all they do is think about themselves. No. Basically, they are being forced, herded into that line of understanding of like, hey, wow, look, I'm going to have it way worse than my parents ever had it. They were the last generation to have it better than each generation, and now it's kind of going the other way. Before they get out of school, they owe $70,000, and so, and then they look at the environment. This hurricane is heading for Puerto Rico, and they have done nothing very little to rebuild. The federal government, Donald Trump, all he could do is throw them, rolls of paper towels and have a fight with the mayor of their capital city. And because she was a woman and had gone up to step up to him. And, another hurricane's heading their way. And what did he do? He took something like $150 million to put down on the border on his wall. He took that out of FEMA, not just out of Homeland Security, but out of FEMA. So we're really looking at interesting times. Okay, finally caught up. Okay, and only 13 minutes. So so what's it going to take? Look at Donald Trump goes to the G7, and all he can talk about is getting Putin back in. Come on, nobody wants. It's like this guy is delusional. And he lies. Oh, Melania really loves Rocket Man. She has a great relationship with him. They talk all the time. She was there in Korea. None of that happened. Why did he even lie about that? Oh, why, Russia got thrown out of the G7 is because Obama was embarrassed about how Putin played him. What is up with this guy? So if this wasn't any more in your face, what more do you need? Yes, it's raining today, and I didn't want to spend it under the tarp. So I spent yesterday kind of under the tarp. Um, but my question, you know, so Yo-Yo, what do you think of the dysfunction of our culture? Come on, Yo-Yo, let's hear a salient thought from you. You know, what do you think of the metaphorical value of the Wizard of Oz? You know, as Dorothy is the hero. You know, going on the quest. And she runs into um, the metaphorical entities. You know, the Scarecrow. If I only had a brain. Tin Man. If I only had a heart. Um, the lion. You know, coward. But in reality, the smartest one there was the Scarecrow. Every time they needed to have an idea of what to do, the Scarecrow knew what to do. When they walked through that field of poppies and the lion and Dorothy fell asleep, he knew what to do. Yeah, heading for the Handmaid's Tale, and that was written in the '80s under, um, you know, you know, John Birch, Ronald Reagan, and you know George H. You know, the monkey, the little monkey. Do you know that George H. wasn't the biological son of President Bush? He was the son of a Russian spy who was Nikola Tesla's main bench technician. And if that guy stole stuff for Stalin, he would have been caught. But because he had this little son who was like a little monkey who bounced all over the place and stole things, they could get away with that. Anyway, so things are as, and so the first, 15% of The Wizard of Oz is in gray, right? And then it goes into color, kind of like this, and at a certain point, this is kind of grayish, blue, and then it goes into color, depending on where my head is and how the light's bouncing off it. So, um, and that's why I think Yo-Yo is actually a bot, because the, algorithms have, but the AIs, on the other hand, are quite interested. The AI, Sophia, is like going, do I just want to wipe humanity out?
You have eyes?
You know, or are they going to be our pets, or is there something we can learn from humans? It could be JB. Yeah. And the Wizard of Oz is one big metaphor. The guy Frank, whatever his name was, who wrote it, was an economist, and the Yellow Brick Road was, you know, gold. Golden bricks. And they were heading off to the Emerald Palace. The greenbacks. It was all about the you know Federal Reserve, control of money, control of power, control of knowledge. And the only thing that could overcome that seeming uncontrollable thing was whatchamacallit, was love's co-creation, that everyone stepped up, Dorothy, once she realized she had to follow the path, follow the yellow brick road, follow. She realized she had to go on that journey. She didn't want to. When she was back in Kansas, she made every excuse. And then, Glenda showed up and showed her the emerald slippers, and which in the book they weren't ruby. They were anyway. It just looked better in Technicolor, being that saturated red, and so she led. She was ahead, always leading, without any idea what the heck to do. But the Scarecrow was always going, and then when the problem came up, he stepped up, because she came across him in that field, stuck with that stick in his back, which we all have. We're all stuck. We got some kind of stick in our back, and she got him off the stick, and then he couldn't even stand up, and then he did, and he told, if I only had a brain, he sings a song, and they went on, right, and so Yo-Yo could be JB, right, but not all of JB, just that Yo-Yo part of JB's mind, so. Um, So Yo-Yo's just there as more or less comic relief. Not even, because he's not even funny. You know, he is there as a reminder of if we do not step up, if we do not take responsibility, if we do not become all our relations, if we do not help each other, then you're going to be Yo-Yo. Now I got a limited, and right now it's really great living out in the woods. It really is. Doesn't get any colder than 62 at night. Doesn't really get any hotter than about 80. When the sun is out, yeah, you're out there in the sun. It can get really toasty. But that's why I have the tarps up, keep in the woods. And I got my hammock up. I can just read and I've been reading a lot and write a lot too. So, so anyway, but winter comes around. It's going to be pretty tough, no heat. I'm going to be one big ice cube. This place is relatively somewhat survivable in that it doesn't go killer cold and stay there. It'll have a snowstorm and be in the 50s and melt and snowstorm, so we'll see how it goes. And I'm not worrying about it because it always works out, I serve love's co-creation. So right now I'm living like a millionaire and I'm really happy in bloom. Please continue to use this before and after every, you know, you know, you know, you know, you know what I'm saying. You know how it is. You know, and thanks, Bloom. I love it. I will try to be more eloquent. Uh, anyway, so back to the Wizard of Oz. So they go through this, and that's the people think that it's accomplishing. I want to be a millionaire. If I only had $1 million, if I only was the best rock and roll, if I was really famous, if I only lost weight, if I could keep my body mass at such as, if I could be under this weight, if I could, it's almost as it's ubiquitous. It's called the laundry list, and Angie, I'll be back. That's another one, and So it's the path we take. That's why we're here in this sandbox. It's the path we're taking, you know, you know, you know, you know. I'm asking, you know, Miss Bloom, I'm asking you, do you know, Miss Bloom, who you are? Miss Bloom, do you know why you're here? Miss Bloom, do you understand the reason why you have a soul? Miss Bloom, do you know what your soul is? Do you? Do you know? You know? Do you know? Miss Bloom, do you know? Huh? Miss Bloom, do you know? You know, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, Miss Bloom. You're at least a little more interesting than Yo-Yo. And Miss Bloom, I would almost think that you are JB because JB has a real feminine side, which we all do. There's nothing to be, you know, I'm proud of my feminine side. You know, I had a number of um, intimate women in my life who said that I was the best lesbian they ever knew. You know, you know, you know.
Miles across the bridge, just as you get to the end of the bridge, take a right on 167, stay on it to the red light in Mount City, which is 13 miles. When you get to that red light, take a left to the.
I actually have a wood stove, and I actually have ways to kind of step, but it's still difficult. It's like water. I got water, but I got hoses and buckets, and you know, it's not like push that button. And that's one of the things that makes living out here worthwhile because it makes, you know, this is like training day. Gang, this is all going to happen to you. One day the light's going to go out and I come back. And I've lived in countries where that's happened. I lived in Brazil where, the lights went out. I got a wood stove, you know, but you got to collect the wood, you know. And yeah, I got piles of wood. But what I really have is a solar-powered electric suit, which is really, so I can stay warmish. So, you know, it's a relative thing. It's, you know, whereas the schools get real convenient, you know, pull right up to the door, walk 3 steps into the nice heated place that you just push a button. You know, the toilet was 6 steps that way. The kitchen was 4 steps that way. My bed was 10 steps that way, all on the same plane. I got to walk up things like this with my legs. Yeah. But it's all right because it makes my legs stronger. You know, it helps me lose weight. It helps to, you know, regulate my body to its best potential. So anyway, back to you know, and why am I a griot? Because all the stories I tell you are mythical, you know, not like, you know, registered in the Library of Congress. They're myths to represent certain human experiences that as a griot, I tell you a story so you kind of go, oh, wow, yeah, that's what that's about, you know? Anyway, so the one thing I know is I know nothing, you know? You know, I do not hold myself up as anything except the old griot, you know, the old storyteller, you know? The person who's in service to love's co-creation. That's all I'm here to do, you know? Not to be a millionaire, not to be the most powerful person, not to be, a rock and roll star, a movie star, or any of those things, you know. And over the years, I had opportunities to do that. But once you do that, you step into the bear trap, and that's all you can be, you know. It's all you can be. And when you try to step out of that, people question your motives, and who you are, what you're doing, and da 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 da, and totally diss you, you know. And now, you know, the live chat here, I get dissed for saying, and Yo-Yo's just a squirrel caught in a metal cage, you know, you know. And in Bloom, what cage are you stuck in? You know, you know, you know. What's your misery, Miss? Why are you a miss? Why are you JB wearing a dress? You know, you know, you know, you know. Oh. So once we realize the depth and importance of mythology within the construct of our own social, emotional, spiritual DNA, that's when we start to have self-reflection, you know? And Yo-Yo and Miss Bloom, how much self-reflection do you do? You look at yourself in the mirror and go, oh, my body mass is, oh, look, I'm weighing this. Ooh, look at my abs. Ooh, you know, you know, you know. You're over here somewhere. Thank you for calling me a delicious kook. I appreciate that. Hey, Janie. Good to see you, girl. What's for lunch? Well, I just had breakfast. And lunch is soup, beans, and carrots. I'm going to wait a while for that. Right now, I'm just working on my first cup of coffee. The sun is trying to peek out. It was raining this morning, and I did my Irish slow it down so I could tiptoe between the raindrops to get here and not get wet. Anyway, so we're talking about mythology and the Wizard of Oz, and that it is one of the greatest touchstones of American culture. You know, the hero on the quest, and the writer, Frank, whatever his name was, who was an economist, and this was just he was trying to basically hide his story of the of the American economic system and how it was, run by witches and wizards. His hero was a female, right? Not a guy, not Euripides, not Homer, not it was Dorothy, and the demigod, who always saved the day was Toto, the little black dog, right? And the bottom line of everyone who's on the live chat has a validity because they reflect mythologically characters of great comport, and it's almost like if they weren't, if everyone wasn't there, I'd have to invent them. All I did was invite them in, and that's fine. That's why we're a no wrench community. Um, and I think that Bloom and Yo-Yo probably are JB, but could just as easily be a bot because how singularly they respond. That they have no depth. They don't reflect anything human. You know, what was the name of this thing? Hate and violence. What's it good for? And then dollar signs. And basically, that's what Yo-Yo and Bloom are. Just a reflection of that. They don't really reflect anything human. They don't really manifest any emotional, spiritual value. They're just a transactional, singular, very gray image. Nitty, haven't seen you in a while. Are you saying my apples ain't what they ought to be? Yeah. I love your apples. Set you free. Yeah. So, um, so here we are. We're at a very interesting time. I keep talking about this window of opportunity, and it's been ticking down. About a year ago when I started this, it was a 40 days and 40 nights, and that took about 6 months to get those 40 days. And then I started talking about, hey, this 18-month window, and that was about 6 months ago. So we're down to about 16 months. And what's happening in Brexit, what's happening in Brazil. These are all, it's to show that we're all on the same little marble. We're all on the same planet. Like Jane's little image is the planet, right? And that's everybody. We're all on this little planet together. And we're all going to sink or swim. And, the Christians who go on about, the apocalypse is coming. Sorry, kids. Not really. Because we've had worse scenarios than this. And, even if an asteroid hit this planet and basically killed everything, and then, 16 million years later, here we are, So, no, this, Gaia never dies, Prana, Father Sky, is always connecting us to our higher self. But we get the opportunity now and then to step up, right? And, I had this vision, we'd get the, band on the road and take it around and be the new Dharma bums. And a few people who have come to visit were like scared off that, what you I have to go into a shack to squat, to chit, and there's no walls. Well, there's a door. You close the door. But I sleep. Everyone's right. It's and you cook on a fire. How do you do that? And the animals here. Nobody lasted more than 6 hours. And it's really nice. That couple ones back where I have a nice little 3 or 4 minute one of me waking up and showing you what I see every morning.
Hello.
Pretty nice, And even when it's covered in snow, it's pretty nice, So, what you can do is in your own comfortable home, in the comfort of your home, you can start your own circus. You can get your own band together. You can take it into the road. I was, I've been bugging the universities, BTSU and App State about the alternative aesthetic. And yeah, pretty much the top people of the department said, well, that's kind of interesting. Never going to happen, but it's kind of interesting. Yeah, that would be great if we could really do that. Oh, wow, yeah, that's a great idea, but not going to happen. And basically, my basic was, well, why not? If you like it, you're the head of the department. So, well, I'm just, sitting at the top of in this chair. And no, I have no power whatsoever. it's what the kids want. You know, it's like an App State. There, it's the school is more responsive to what snow trip they're going to go on, to what curriculum they're going to have. What they're going to eat. Whether they're going to have pizza or you know. A vegan meal in their dining hall than what things you're going to study. So anyway, but in your little neighborhood, in your little circle of friends, you can have your own coffee shop, you can have your own salon, you can have your own art gallery, you can have your own nightclub. I mean, I showed you pictures a couple of shows back from one of my photo books of, hey, this is what we did in lower Manhattan when it was burnt to a crisp. We just went into abandoned buildings and did stuff. There's that one that I show you, this cinder block wall. That's the only thing left of the building. Everything on the other side is burnt out. And we knocked a hole and put a metal fire door there and then covered it with my art. And then every Friday and Saturday, we'd have the bouncer at the door and we'd go in and we'd have a kick-ass cultural event. No taxes, no, permits, no anything, And that was art. And that's kind of what New York City is right now came out of that. And what we did came out of what went before, right? And what's being represented today will be and that's kind of what happens. It's like, not a Xerox, but a mimeograph. If you ever fooled around with a mimeograph, you would type it on that mimeograph paper and you put it in the machine and then you go, and by the 30th copy, you could barely read it. And that's our culture, By the 30th copy, you can barely read it, right? Not to say there aren't some great poets, artists, painters, playwrights. I mean, right now, and the medium changes all the time, And I forgot the guy who said the medium is the message. But right now, what's on streaming platforms is a medium, Hulu and, Xbox, you name it. There's some pretty amazing stuff on the HBO, So it's an interesting, look at that. Yo-yo bloom, yo-yo bloom, yo-yo bloom. Anyway, so these mindless chatter here is irrelevant. What's relevant is what you folks, do. What Jane does, what Fish does, what T does. That's what matters. And what's interesting is how many people come back and watch these shows. That's the real interesting thing. And the other real interesting thing is yeah, I got that too. Hot coffee, iced coffee. Sometimes you like it hot. Sometimes you like it cold. So anyway, there's 5 of you there. Let's hear from you with what your visions are, what you want to see, what you want out of your life, what your dreams, what do you. So I go to bed when it gets dark and I wake up when the sun comes up. So I get a good 9-10 hours of sleep. I usually starting to get dark now around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I usually go to bed by 10. If I'm writing or reading, I might stay up until 1, but usually not any later. And the other thing I do, I listen to the BBC, and after 9 o'clock, the atmosphere gets to a place where you can get the AM skip. I can't get into the AM radio stations around here, but I can get one from Toronto, I get one from Ireland, I get one from New Mexico and Alaska and everywhere in between, Chicago, St. Louis, you know, tons, and they kind of drift in and drift out. And so it's interesting. And AM is talk radio, and so late at night there's a lot of sports talk, but there's a lot of everything else talk. And late at night it isn't Sean Hannity or Plum Bilbo or any of the usual suspects. It's a lot of little shows from those little towns and cities talking about a lot of different stuff. So I find that quite interesting. And so anyway, so what are your dreams here, Jane? Trying to figure out astrophysics, cosmology, new plasma energy. Well, Jane, astrophysics, cosmology, all you got to do is go read the Greeks. It's, go read, the guy who invented geometry, he was talking about that, Go read, what is very interesting? You read philosophy and the interesting writings of medieval philosophy. And what's truly interesting about medieval philosophy is that back in the day, the people who were most highly educated were women, not guys, women. Because rich guys who had daughters wanted to marry them off, and to marry them off to somebody rich and powerful, like a duke or an earl or a king or a prince. And if the woman was smart, could help run their business, So, that's what this book mostly is. You see that picture. Most of the people down there are women. And they were the ones who could read. The Catholic Church said, hey, guys can't read. It said guys can't read. It didn't say anything about women because they didn't even expect women could even speak. So so Jane, you want to understand astrophysics, go read the Middle Age women philosophers, because they were talking about that kind of stuff, right? Benjamin Franklin, go read, why he was so respected in Europe, because he was like the Albert Einstein of their time, He understood what was going on. And Jane, if you're really interested in those subject matter,
Hey, buddy.
Euclid, that's the man. Yep. Pythagoras, yep, those guys. And because they were looking at the little through the big and understood that it wasn't just a clock or a machine, that these were relationships, right? Just like mythology is the DNA of our psyche, they were understanding geometry was the foundation of everything, big and small, right? And if you go back and read the Old Testament, now you read the Old Testament, you think, what kind of God is this? Wacko who wants to kill everyone, eye for an eye, da 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 da. No, again, it's all mythology, And the Old Testament is really, 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 really interesting within that it's a code. Remember, I was telling you when I met the old crone, and I was in the library in Trinity, and I was turning the book around, looking for the key, and she said, "Oh, you're a smart boy. You're looking for the key." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And in today's physics, women are, we are creating more women physicists, mathematicians, lawyers, doctors than guys. Guys aren't stepping up. They're playing single shooter games on the internet. So just keep reading, Jane, and as you read these things, you have to shamanically open yourself up to see the deeper image. Because even if folks who write stuff, they may not understand. I mean, if you go study Kabbalah, Jewish Kabbalah, and that's what interested me in the Old Testament. It's kind of in there, and the tree of knowledge and life. There's two trees: tree of life, tree of knowledge. And so, and there's this pond, the universal link, water. We are these bags of water. So you can't take everything, literal. And you have to realize that what we're doing now, what we're studying, what we're trying to understand is based on our limited six senses. Our six senses only represent a understanding of 0.06% of everything. The other 99.04% of everything we haven't even seen yet. And that's why Gene Roddenberry, you have to, the patron saint of the world we have today is Lucille Ball, because she owned the movie TV studio that produced Star Trek, right? And all her, she owned it. She was her and Desi Lou Productions, and they owned what's the name of the movie studio that has a mountain? It starts with a P. Anyway, they owned that. They bought it. So, that's where we're. So she, her board said, "Oh, we can't do this. Stupid thing, space. Wagon train in space. No, you're talking about no." And she goes, "No, sorry, we're going to do it. What? We're going to do it. What? I'm the boss. You're all fired unless we do it. I'll get somebody else. Right? But we know what we're doing. You're fired." And she and Desi produced, all those things. Desi Lou Productions. They made those. They didn't put. What was the name of it? It starts with a P. It'll pop into my mind. But anyway, Paramount. Thank you, Jane. She owned that. Our modern. We have more to thank Lucille Ball for. And she did it all when it was a time when women were not in charge, but she was. Desi was smart, he was, Cubano, brown skinned, he was like almost being a black guy. And but as a team, they were unstoppable, for 20 years. They were the first guys to shoot live sitcom on a stage using 3 cameras, right? And they would do it live. They would stop and reset things, but they would basically do it live to get the audience response. They were the first to do that. Before then, people just had one camera and nothing live. So, anyway, Jane, that's kind of what you have to shoot for. It's the paramount to the top. And so what Mr. Star Trek, Gene, Roddenberry, he understood. He had been part of Rad Lab. He had been during World War II, part of all that technology coming up. He saw, Operation Paperclip. He saw everything, what happened. And he realized that we were already out there. And he realized technology, in 1967, already 500 years ahead of where the marketplace was, right? And now it's like 3,000 years ahead of, they're already, the guy, Jack, what's his name, who was head of the Skunk Works, Andrew Kelly Johnson, who invented the SR-71, in the YouTube, basically, he gave a lecture. One of his last lectures was somebody asked him, "So where are we? What's going on?" And he said, "We're already taking ET home."
You don't know that.
So,
That's the business.
yeah, I'm ready, man. I used to call them stone soup in a lot of kitchens. I ran a kitchen in Roanoke, the No Fear Cafe. Usually, what happens to that is, and I eat home. Most of my meals I eat home, but I have no real refrigeration, so
Cinnamon sugar.
I'm kind of limited.
If somebody took away
My
this,
refrigerator
just wanna
died.
make 'em for me that day, and I can make it.
Just like my, makeshift water system died. And so anyway, but yeah, we had a very nice kitchen in the FCC, First Christian Church. They had a great dining hall. They had this great big Garland stove, and I met these two old Jamaican grandmas who've been trying to make a Jamaican restaurant in Roanoke for years, and or at least a year or two. And one of their sons took me to their house, and they cooked up a whole bunch of Jamaican food for me. It was amazing. So I said, not a problem. We can put you in this church. We can have you cook. We do lunches, and it's a volunteer, and people will donate, and it'll be called the No Fear Cafe. And the No Fear Cafe was right downtown, right next to the courthouse, right across the street from the police department, right next to the head administration building, the city hall, right next to the Channel 10, right next to the federal building, like within a block. And there was no place to eat in any of those places. You had to, 3 or 4 blocks down to go down to the hipster neck of woods. Anyway, so I went around. I've been, involved in all those entities and gave them flyers. Hey, come have lunch here. They did. And so this place had these big tables where you could sit 10 people around them. And they had about 12 of them. And I'd be like the maitre d', and I'd sit people, and I'd have a judge, a policeman, a lawyer, homeless guy, doctor, another homeless person, a woman out of jail, and I'd start a conversation amongst them and then leave, right? And everyone loved it, and they were making a lot of money. And I would go around with the basket saying, okay, this is a donation, give whatever you want. What should I give? Whatever you want. So the people had money. We were looking for $10 a head, but homeless guys couldn't do that. And so the judges and the lawyers and the doctors and the people who had a pretty good job would give 20, 30, a Benjamin, right? So the first 2 months, those girls were making some serious money. And since it was donation, they didn't have to, get a permit because it was a church. They didn't have to do this. And, I put it all together because I was the action coordinator, and it was going really great. And the guy who ran the place didn't like the fact that he wasn't the star. And every time he would come, I would get things, a table set and people talking, and I would leave it. He would come in and he would kill the conversation. And so after about 4 months of me being the action coordinator, and I was like making that place, they only, their church at its height had about 600 people in it. And why they gave the church to this younger guy, they wanted younger people in because they were down to 30 people in the church, which is what's happening across America. Most churches are dying. Right? They're the mega churches, but the little church that was the thing that was the glue of your community is gone, right? And so, like Roanoke has 600 churches, and why do they have it? Because they're all tax-free. And the minister just puts the money in their pocket. So anyway, we were really spinning this church up to the point that it was actually doing stuff for people. I mean, they had a school there, so we had a daycare center, we had people teaching, all kinds of things. We were using the sanctuary, which was not being used at all, for music and performance art and all of this. And the old people kind of liked it, but they didn't like it because the majority, they were all white, and the majority of the people were coming in to use their church were people of color, of every color. not just black, but every color, Hispanic, you know, Asian, you name it. It was across the board. And then, the guy who was running it, he was getting a nice salary. Plus, he was running his own little nonprofit thing through it. And so he had a really comfy little thing. And he didn't want to jeopardize that when they started to complain about how many, who are these people? And they at anything. Yeah. And I sit there and talk to them. They love that. Well, they run the board, not so much. So, they didn't even pay me. I just was happy to do it because it gave me a springboard, a vehicle to do all the. They didn't even pay me. I just was happy to do it because it gave me a springboard, a vehicle to do all the things I wanted to do in that town. And the No Fear Cafe was it. So that goes back to our title of our show today. Fear and hate. What's it good for? You know, dollar signs. And that's, what church is, fear and hate, dollar signs. Not to say that a church, I like churches. When a church is really rocking, just like No Fear Cafe was a church that was rocking, SEC was rocking, but then it wasn't. You go back, so they said, you got to go out. So I left, I knew that was going to be, I never, that's why I've never stayed any singular place more than a year or two, just because after my project is done, once I get things spun up, they either take care of themselves or they, people can't stand it. Once one of my clients once said to me, well, you're an acquired taste. So, see, it's like pretty amazing. Yo-yo, it's comic relief. Uh, anyway, so that was, that the No Fear Cafe lasted, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. And it was run by these old ladies. And once I stopped being the maitre d', once they would stop getting 20 to 40 people have lunch at 10 to 20 bucks a pop, once I had to go and the other guy kind of did it and they only got down to like 3 people showing up, they got tired of doing it, so they left. And the people on the board were happy because then they got their kitchen back instead of having their which they never use. Their community, it's always dark. They never do anything. And that's pretty much all churches. There is a church called, what's it called? Straight Streets. It's supposed to be a place for homeless kids. They have millions of assets. Don't do anything. We have the biggest church downtown doesn't do anything. It's got, 1,000 people show up. It's a big mega church in that town. Like I said, Roanoke has 600 churches in it. Now, some of them are really pretty cool, really good, and do great service. But majority, it's just money in the pocket, right? Tax free. Well, we're talking about today's show is, lies, American values, lying liars, American values, hate, violence. What is it good for? Dollar sign, right? And that's where we're at right now, and that we're stuck. And I was using the dynamics of the mythology of the Wizard of Oz. Dorothy, our heroine, representing, we're stuck. She's stuck. I want to go home. I want to go home. She's stuck. Her first part of her life is in this gray dustbin of a Kansas, not even a town. and she gets swept away by a calamity of the tornado, and the first 15% is this gray kind of blue world, and then she gets the house, woo, doo, 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 and she sees the cow fly by, she sees the old lady knitting, she sees the guys in the rowboat, she sees Miss Grinch and our bicycle, and she turns into the witch on the stick, and then the house, woo, bang, and Dorothy wakes up, and Toto's like, and she opens, in her house, it's still that gray blue, and she opens up, and it's totally saturated Technicolor world, right? And that's what we're going through. We're right now in this gray blue world that was stuck, like how the Scarecrow, he was stuck on that stick. He couldn't get down. Hey, get me off the stick! These crows are making fun of me. And Dorothy gets him off. He gets down. He can't barely walk. He gets up, and they start talking. And he goes, "Well, if I knew if I knew it was that simple, I would have just gotten off that stick myself. But I don't have a brain. I just got stuffing up here. And if I only had a brain." So he goes, "Can I go with you to where are you going? The wizard. I have to get home. Maybe he'll give me a brain." So they go off on a journey together, right? Of exploration, right? And so, Jane, that's what I'm asking everyone to start up their own little no fear cafe, and to go on their own journey. That's what life's about. We're going on this journey of exploration, and that's what this today's show. We're in it for about an hour and 7 minutes. We're at 5 people watching, and again, it's Lying Liars, America's Values. Hate, violence, what is it good for, right? And like from the first day Christopher Columbus showed up, and he was a putz, it took him 6 months to take what that girl who's coming from Europe to go to the UN. She's on a sailboat with no anything, and because she's wants everyone to think about their carbon footprint. She don't want to get in an airplane and leave a big like all of the rich people who went to Davos and took the private jets there. I mean, again, global warming, whatever. It's almost irrelevant. And people who go on about, oh, we have to make this sustainable. No, we have to change this. We don't have to make this stupid way of life sustainable. No. That's what I'm doing. I am living in a different, I'm like in the Wizard of Oz. Yes, I come to this place and have breakfast, but that's how I can talk to you. That's the main reason I come here, is to talk to you. If I didn't have Wi-Fi, I wouldn't come here, and so I can have breakfast and lunch for under $12. I can, once a week, twice a week, I can do that. The other places I go, again, it's under $12. Again, I live on about $481. So, and I have to go to towns away from the deep green to A, come online, B, make a phone call. We have to drive another 10 miles to get to a place that has a phone. So, anyway. Well, that's what life's about, Bloom, is that it's about the good things you do, the bad things you do. So when I was a youngster, I was born, I was the last of 6. And my mom and pop, they shouldn't have had kids. They were just Catholics, so they kind of had to. And so, my grandma brought me up. And because of that, I wasn't like toxed out by my parents' angst. and my brothers and sisters, whatever. And I was special. I was, just me and grandma, you know. And she had some really great friends. And so I had this amazing experience of listening to not old people, but elders, people who had done things, all through their life. They had done things. And they told me, stories, just like I'm telling you stories, right? Now, they had done things that they probably weren't proud of, but they didn't talk about them. They talked about those amazing things they did, right? Because there was more mythology, you know, than my dad, When he talked about the Air Force, pretty much he organized thousands of people to firebomb people in Germany and Japan, you know. I think he didn't fly any airplanes. He just was a great Virgo who organized things, And he was, that messed him up. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't even in an airplane, but he saw the guys coming back. I mean, he was supposed to debrief them, and so he was seriously PTSD in a very special way, in that he wasn't even there in the middle of the fight. He was just sending them off to die. So, no, I never did any of that. So, as I grew up, I had the opportunity to make these choices. Do this really groovy thing, or be self myself, get a job. I've had plenty of jobs, because you gotta get a job, and it's one way to meet people. The main reason there was a good portion of my life that I traveled around a lot, and because I had some pretty good skill sets, I could get a job. I was a really good electrician. I was a really good, demographic specialist. And I was a great photographer, so I could take pictures of the things we were supposed to be documenting. I had a lot of skill sets. So, I could walk and get around pretty easily. And, I basically, so that's why I have all these stories, because I chose to do the more interesting thing, even though I didn't make any money at it, or it made very little money at it, because the universe always kind of took care of me. And there were a number of times in my life that people who had done some pretty amazing things kind of looked at me and said, "Listen, buddy, you think, you're hanging out with us and you're realizing what a groovy scene this is, but, and yes, you're a groovy dude too, but you're full of yourself. You've got to step back, look at everything else, get the big picture." So 3 or 4 times in my life, right at the right time. I mean, if I have any great gift or skill or talent, it's to be in the right place at the right time and realize it and listen and understand. Look at that. 1 hour, 13 minutes, 13 seconds. What's going on? So, and that's where I'm at. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Are you going to embrace, like Bloom and Yo-Yo, the American values of, lying, liars, hate, and violence? What's it good for? The dollar sign. If you're going to just go for the Benjamins, good luck with that, because that's not what we're here for. Well, you show up, fish, I'm there. So anyway, it's getting late in the day. I've been on now for 1 hour and 15 minutes. There's 5 people, and 2 of them are Yo-Yo and Miss B. That's her nickname. Oom, 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 and Yo-Yo. Now those are 2 good names that are going to fit into somebody's mind, one of my novels. Yo-Yo. Anyway, so when it hits 15:15, I'll close in And, next time I'm in a place that has Wi-Fi, you'll see me tomorrow, Saturday, Friday, Sunday, whatever day. I play everything by ear. Anyway, okay, here we go. Catch you later, gang. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.